Hello, and welcome to episode 65 of Meinl Radio. Today, we have somewhat of a different setup. We were filming a video shoot with Meinl cymbals artist Matt Halpern, and our engineer on the shoot was Meinl cymbals artist Navene Koperweis. Both Matt and Navene have known each other for quite some time, so we thought that we would get Navene and Matt to sit down and have a conversation for the podcast. For those of you not familiar with either artist, Navene is the musical mastermind behind Entheos, the band he's in with his wife, Cheney Crab. Not only does Navene play the drums for Entheos on record and on tour, but he writes and records all of the guitar and bass for the band. Navene is rightfully given huge accolades for his musicianship and wide range of skills, such as being the engineer for the session that we did with Matt, for instance. To say he's talented is a huge understatement. Matt is the drummer for Periphery, a band that has created an incredible name for themselves in the industry, not only through their music, but also through their collective business acumen that has resulted in successful endeavors such as the creation of their own label, 3 Dot Recordings, and Get Good Drums, or GGD as it's more commonly known, an industry-leading company specializing in some of the most loved and utilized drum sample libraries, VSTs, and MIDI packs. Matt himself is known for being a drummer that's helped define the style and vocabulary of much of metal drumming in today's age, with an undeniable swing that brings a human feel to music that can too easily be roboticized by Pro Tools grids and quantization. Matt was fairly insistent that I join them for the podcast, so I joined and chimed in when it seemed appropriate. Mostly I just sat there and thoroughly enjoyed watching and listening to a great conversation between two of modern metal's most certifiable badasses. Both artists' careers have been on their own upward trajectories at roughly the same time, so the sympathy between the two of them for making a living as drummers in the music industry was tangible and worth the discussion. Enjoy the podcast. Here we are. Nashville. Got Matt Halpern.
Hey.
Got Navene Koperweis.
Yep.
Matt played.
Managed to get into another interview.
Yeah. Matt played and Navene recorded.
Yep.
How long have you guys known each other?
We met, I think, on that first tour that we did in 2009, I think.
It was, yeah.
Or 10.
It was 9 or, it was maybe 10.
Yeah.
But I knew of you.
No, it was definitely February 2010, I think, is when we did that tour.
That makes sense. I knew of you from Animosity, but then when I departed Animals as leaders to join Periphery, Tosin and Hav were sending me all of these videos of people that were auditioning, and I think you sent in a video?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, and I can kind of picture it, sort of.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, they were sending to me, like, to weigh in and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, yeah, this dude's sick.
All right. Well, dang. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you
then going back and, like, looking at YouTube videos of Animosity. I remember there was one video where it was, like, if I recall, I think it was, like, maybe black and white, and you guys are outside in, like, a parking lot.
Yeah. I don't think it was black and white, but
it wasn't black and white.
Probably a potato cam.
Okay.
And we were outside. Yeah. In a park. Yeah.
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah. Totally remember that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I knew who you were at that time because I remember Tosin kind of mentioning that you guys had played together and everything. I think a lot of people probably don't even know that
Yeah.
you were the original drummer before me, even.
Yeah. A drummer named Vinny was there before me.
The Reflex drummer.
Yes, but
Yeah.
they weren't at the time. Like, there was no album.
Okay.
It was like before the Tempting Time era.
So you didn't play with them after the album came out, or was not when it came out, but like because I actually had the album like a year before it came out or something like that.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah. So how it went down was I was. This is like a very long story short, but basically, Misha somehow ended up at a show that I was playing at, and I didn't know Misha at all, but he saw me play, and he apparently made a note to Periphery's old guitar player, Alex Boyce, was like, oh, if we ever lose our drummer, that's got to be our guy.
Okay.
And then Misha hits me up a couple weeks later. He's like, hey, I'm working on this record with my friend Tosin for his band Animals as Leaders. You should play drums on it. Like, you should be the drummer, basically.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't think I can play this stuff, but I'll learn it. So he sent me that record.
Okay.
And then I rehearsed with the guys, and then we ended up playing. I played 2 shows with Animals, and then
was one of them like a house show or something?
It wasn't a house show. No, one of them was at this place called Fletcher's in Baltimore.
Okay.
And I believe the other one was in D.C. at maybe the Black Cat, I think was the venue, or something. It was like a venue like that. It wasn't a house show, though.
Okay.
But I did those 2 gigs, and then the band kind of went on hiatus, and then in that time period,
Right. Like when
Misha-
Tosin went to play with Boner of Osiris, kind of. That
it was
it that
then,
time.
and Javier was he was producing a lot of different kinds of music. Like I think he was doing a lot of hip hop in DC at the time.
Yeah.
So it was just very uncertain what the band was going to be, and if it was going to go anywhere. So Travis Orban left Periphery right at that time, and then Misha had reached out to me, and I was like, well, I don't think there's anything happening at the moment.
Got it.
And then so that was sort of the little gap. And then, dude, right after that, pretty soon after that, Animals got an offer to do New England Metal Fest.
Okay.
And was that your first show with them?
No, I didn't
Okay.
do that. They must have not done it.
Yeah, maybe they didn't do it.
Yeah, because I came in at like November 2009 is when I started playing with them, because it was 1 year, pretty much to the month. And like Animosity broke up in November 2008, and then I had like a year where I did some other stuff, and then the next year I was in DC, like practicing with Animals, and we did that little run with Between the Buried and Me. That was like how the band kind of started.
Right.
At that time.
Right. Yeah. And then you were in for Joy of Motion as well, right?
No, I was
I'm sorry.
Weightless.
That's
Yeah.
right, Weightless, not Joy of Motion.
And then and then I left, and like I think 20, not that much after. I was only in the band for like, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 years, something like that.
Yeah. And then
And now they're I mean, I always knew they were going to be what they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
First time I saw him was with you at NAMM. You guys were playing.
Oh,
at
okay,
NAMM.
okay.
Do you remember that?
Yes, of course. I remember that at the Mackey stage thing.
Yeah.
Outside in the courtyard, right?
No, it was in an indoor. They had like a little
It
stage.
was upstairs.
Okay. So then it must have been, because I saw Animals play like the outside courtyard, but that was probably after you
Yeah,
were in the band. That was
yeah,
when Matt
definitely.
was already with them.
Yeah. And I remember you came, I'm pretty sure to see us play at the end. Or no, sorry, the Muse.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did. I saw you guys at the Muse.
And I remember being like, wow, that's weird that like a professional person is here at this venue.
You mean comes to the Muse?
Yeah. Like, I thought it was cool that you were willing to go there.
So the Muse is it's no longer operable. It's not even open. But it was a cool little club that was a dive, as many cool clubs are. And I would see bands like Job for a Cowboy there. I saw Obscura there. Animals. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if you came to Animosity there, but I'm not sure.
I
if
never
it
saw
was,
you with
okay,
Animosity.
So you just saw the Animals show.
Because
that
it
you did.
was Charn from Job for a Cowboy that hipped me to Navene.
That's how I got in.
And you had been in Animosity at that moment, but as soon as you joined up with Meinl, you basically went right over to Animals.
Yeah. Well, I remember after that year that I didn't play live, I remember sending you an email and I was like, hey, I'm like in this band, Animals. I'm like, I'm wondering if I'm still endorsed. And you were like, of course, man. Like, and I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've always made a rule of like not signing the band, but signing the drummer.
Yeah.
And trying to follow the drummer wherever they go.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
very
was,
cool.
young at the time.
Yeah.
But,
No, it's a legit question. I
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
have been asked that a few times by
I'm like,
artists. but
I'm in a new band, and I don't know if you had heard about Animals at that point, but you were like, oh, I checked it out. This is like amazing. Like, you're definitely
the first, there was a video on YouTube of you, you were shedding those tracks on an E-kit.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. I remember just the original video that I did.
There was some electronic kit you were playing on,
Okay.
and you were practicing the material. And
Yeah.
I remember listening, going, "That's pretty badass."
Yeah.
And, I've seen you guys so many times. I've been sitting here trying to remember where the first time I saw you was live, and maybe it was down in Atlanta at the Masquerade or something like that. I don't know. I've seen you guys a bunch.
Yeah. Like, is Exit In? Was that Nashville?
It's Nashville.
Okay, it is. Yeah, I want to say it was there. I think, but I mean, we're going back.
Oh, 2008, 2009.
It would have been 2009 or 10, because when I did the first tour with Periphery, I did not have a Meinl deal with you at all, and I was using a bunch of random cymbals and broken gear, and you took the word of like Sam Applebaum. I remember Cameron Loesch. I forget who else was on, like which other drummers, but I remember there
You had a
was
few
like,
dudes going to bat for you.
yeah, which like I've always thought was very cool about about Meinl in general, and then your openness to suggestions from the artists that you work with, which is kind of what you were just sort of talking about as well.
100%.
And it's like since now being with the company, I've suggested drummers to you as at the same time you've always taken it seriously, and I think that's really cool that you are open to like suggestions from the artists that you work with. I don't think that not everybody is humble enough to like I guess in some ways be like okay with not finding the person themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's everything we do is one big network. And think how much work each of you guys have received just off of your connections with people.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with artists. I mean, if I'm going to bring an artist on board,
yeah,
I must value something about them, not just their playing, but also personality. And so if they say something, I'm going to listen.
Sure.
Yeah. But that's the way this all works, whether or not it's artists or bands or any kind of work you get. It's all networking.
Totally. Yeah, I remember telling you about Alex Rudiger, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I haven't hit Chris up about many artists. There's been like 2.
Yeah.
And Alex was one of them.
I remember I told you about Richie Martinez.
You remember like what you said to me about Richie Martinez? We're sitting in a booth in Poland after the Meinl Drum Festival.
Yeah.
We're having dinner late that night.
Yeah.
And Anoop was there.
Mm-hmm.
You were there. One other guy was there, and you just kind of looked at me and said, "Dude, what are you doing? Why aren't you signing this guy? You're blowing it, basically." And I thought, all right, I need to get on this.
Yeah, and dude, he's been from what I can see, he's been a great.
Oh yeah,
Dorsey,
Richie's the best.
Yeah,
like that guy. Anything we ask him to participate in, he'll do it, no problem. But all you guys are that way. I've never had you guys tell me no about anything.
Yeah.
Hopefully I've not been like taxing the shit out of you either.
No. I don't think you've ever said no to me either when I've asked you for things. So it's like, it's a nice give take relationship in that regard. So it's good.
Same.
Yeah, dude, I could tell about Richie from early on when I was teaching, like I was giving him lessons, and just the way, like how seriously he took it, the note taking, the questions he was asking, and then just kind of watching him kind of go out on a limb even for the companies that he wanted to work with before he ever had a relationship with them. Like he was already repping Meinl before he was with Meinl. He was already repping D'Addario, I'm pretty sure, before he was with D'Addario. So, to me it was like, that's probably why I said like, dude, you're screwing up. He's already like on track with it. You got to just make it official.
Oh, I'm glad I listened to you. Yeah. And so today we had you play drums and you record, and it's such a different kind of interaction. Usually you're on tour together. Well, when you've been on tour together.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of, did you learn something different about Navene the last 2 days, or vice versa, watching him record? Like, did you guys pick up something, did you walk away with some impression of each other? It's like, I never really realized that about him.
Well, I mean, no, nothing about his demeanor or how you carry yourself. I feel like I know that about you. I was very happy that he was going to be engineering the session. I felt very comfortable with it. At the same time, it added a slight layer of anxiety of oh man, this ridiculous drummer who records himself and writes his own music and produces his own music all the time is going to be paying attention to my drums under a microscope. I better not screw this up. And at the same time, it's but he understands. So it's this dichotomy of being super anxious about the fact that he's going to be seeing how it's made versus, also I know that he gets that feeling, so I don't have to be anxious about it. And it worked out great. I think we had a really good dynamic because we both kind of understand where the other is coming from as the drummer. And then, something that I was really happy about today was that you were the reason why we ended up recording a third track, because you were like, dude, just do it.
Yeah.
I
know what it's like to get in there. Just get in there.
Yeah. I was basically I don't know if I feel confident based on the way I feel right now to do this third track. And he was like, oh, just do it.
Yeah.
And then I think it turned out great. So I appreciate the push to do that. So yeah, I mean, it's it was a motivational side that I hadn't necessarily knew like existed before. So it was
Yeah,
very cool.
that's funny that you mentioned that you were kind of like a little nervous about whatever my history is, because same right here. Like I'm a confident recording engineer. You know, I do it all the time, but I think with this particular session, I'm like, all right, this guy is like really pro, and you know, records with Nolly and like some of the best engineers, like Misha. You're close with him and everybody. So I actually felt, I didn't even stop for a second to think like, oh, he might be nervous that I'm sitting here. You know what I mean? I'm like sitting there the whole time like, all right, I just gotta, act pro here.
I didn't even think about it at all. I was just like, oh yeah, he knows.
Yeah, like why would he be nervous? He's just recording. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
but it's the same,
But also like having worked with you because of GGD, having worked with you like, or just knowing what your capabilities are, knowing what you do with your career in terms of music, like there's not even a shred of doubt of like your ability to do a great job. So it just wasn't even a thought. Honestly.
Well, that's funny. We both had kind of the same experience.
Yeah.
You said something that made me think about this. I was talking to someone the other day about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And you guys have been at this for a while, each of you. I mean, at this point, there's nothing really to be nervous about. You've done it so much, whether it's touring or recording or heading up your own businesses. But do you ever still have imposter syndrome? And if you do, specifically, in what area of what you do with your job do you have imposter syndrome?
You go.
Yeah, I would say like with playing drums, I'm pretty, like I've just been doing it for so long that I don't really have imposter syndrome, just because, not that I think I'm like great or anything, but it's just, I know what I do on drums, and I'm just like, this is what I do. And I kind of have like carved out my own niche for that. So I feel really confident there. But yeah, like other stuff that I do that's kind of secondary to that, like being an engineer or a guitarist even, it's like I can definitely do my role, but it's kind of specific. So I'm just sometimes, especially in these scenarios, like we're renting out a huge studio and there's thousands of dollars worth of gear in there, and like
you're worried
you're the engineer, it's kind of like, I was telling this to Cheney, my wife, last night. I was like, I actually get more nervous going in to be the engineer than I do playing the freaking drums on camera, because I've just done that for so much longer. You know what I mean? And it's not even like I'm more confident in either. It's just the time aspect.
But it's an unfounded nervousness. Like,
100%.
you can do it.
Of course.
But you still have to wonder if like we'll be on to you.
Yeah, and well, not yeah, for sure. But I think that amount of that anxiety is healthy. I think that's why we have anxiety in the healthy sense, because if I just came in here and didn't want to prove anything, didn't care, stuff would get screwed up. But since I'm so like, I got to really make sure this is right, I'm sitting there really focused in on what I'm supposed to do. And I think that's why stuff will turn out the way it does. And I think it's probably the same way for you. Like that healthy side of the anxiety.
Well, it's okay to be nervous, just don't be worried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I agree with that idea about it. I look at the whole thing. It's like, well, one, I personally feel imposter syndrome about all of it, because I think as much as I feel confident about the niche that I've carved out for myself as a drummer as well, I know that I know that specifically in a room with you guys and Brandon, it's like you guys see drummers that are incredible, doing amazing things all the time. And my own view of myself is very like different than a lot of the drummers that I look up to, in particular. So when I get in a room like this, knowing how much experience you guys have, it's like I have to remind myself just to be myself.
Yeah.
Don't worry about anything. Don't try to be anything else. Just be yourself. And I think that's the first hurdle to get over, in my mind. But then secondly, it is healthy to have that level of self-doubt, that level of anxiety, because it does make me care about the parts that I'm laying down and like wanting to make them right, and being willing to, like, I want feedback. you know, from you guys. Like when we're doing the sessions and we're recording, I want you to be like, you know what, hey, I heard this thing, we should fix this, or you can do a better take, or hey, why don't you go play this third song? You know, like, because if not, I may just kind of in certain situations like let that doubt, you know, eke in a little bit more than I'd like it to be, or I'd like it to.
Yeah. I think it's important to have both, like the push to go forward and. But yeah, I mean, dude, you're one of the incredible drummers. Like it's amazing, and like to get to record you, I was just like really excited about it.
That's really cool. I appreciate you saying that.
Like the tone and the way you play, it just turns out perfect.
It's funny because I mean, I'm sure you feel this way too. It's like from your own view, it's like you hear yourself play all the time. You're probably not thinking about the nuances of what you do. You're not thinking about. Like I'm not, dude. I'm not, and I have no idea how it really comes off from someone who's experienced as an engineer. But like, I'm not thinking about like, oh, Navene's going to be really impressed with like how consistent certain hits are, or like the dynamic range or anything. Like I don't. I'm just thinking about like, oh crap, like did I play these parts well?
Yeah.
Am I biffing it right now? That's really what I'm thinking about. And also, as I said to you, it's like the next time we do something, I want to do it where I'm coming off of a tour where I've literally like been playing at the top of my game at shows every night, because then there's a confidence that is there. And then having just come out of you know, more of like really cool stuff happening in my personal life, but more non-drumming life than drumming life for the past couple months, it's even more intimidating to get in a room like this studio with people such as yourselves and then be expected to perform at a high level. I'm always up for the challenge, but to me, the stakes are higher because I do want to make a good impression still, even though we have how many years working together now? Like, I mean, well over 10 years working together and well over 10 years knowing each other and being comfortable with each other. It's still like, I want to make sure that I'm earning my keep, you know, and not letting people down. And that comes to the people that are going to inevitably watch these videos too. It's like, I want to make sure that they're happy with what they're seeing, you know?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly how I feel. Whether I'm doing the drum videos or engineering or doing anything for you guys, you know, I feel the exact same way.
That makes me wonder, you talked about the people that watch the videos. How much do you guys pay attention to comments on socials?
It depends on what it is. Like I try to be aware of, like, I don't take compliments lightly, so I appreciate when people are supportive, and I do see it. You know, we all experience different facets of criticism, and I think some of it can be really good. Like, hey, this is some good criticism to take into account. Some of it can just be like whatever, like, you know, it's not worth listening to. And I'm sure the people that write stuff like that or comment stuff like that know that it's just, you know, bollocks. But I think depending on the topic, it you know, can spark good conversation, or it can make you look at the things you're doing and be like, oh, okay. Specifically, like if somebody wanted to comment about the sonic aspect of a performance, or like, you know, like, hey, your mix could be better, and here's some things you could do. Like like constructive criticism like that can be really cool. Or even like, hey, I noticed that when you're playing, I don't know, like fix something on your drum kit so you're not awkwardly reaching a certain way, or maybe try this. Like those positive forms of feedback are really good. So I don't know. I mean, I pay attention to the good stuff, I think, and depending on what the criticism aspect is, it could be good or it could just be not worth paying attention to. You know?
I would say I pay attention to comments a lot. They really don't bother me, but there is the off comment here or there where they say something really negative, and you know it's true. Those ones kind of hurt. You know, like if they notice a weakness of yours and they get in there and say something. But like, I think to me, like if you don't have people in the comments like saying negative stuff about you, it's I guess it's like a status that you reach. You know, like if you have enough comments there to where people think they can just say something negative and that you're probably not even going to see it. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, that's cool. Like in my opinion, I just take it as a win. I'm like, sick. People are watching the video. You know what I mean?
You've arrived.
You know, that's a good way to look at it, because some of the biggest artists out there, they have either total love or total hate. There's no in between.
Yeah.
Which means you're doing something right.
Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't bug me at all. Actually, there was one on my last video that like really cracked me up. Like I kind of made in the comment in the post, I said like, oh yeah, a lot of people are kind of being called out for fake drumming or whatever, and I was like, this is just me playing one take, right? And then someone in the comments was like, fake or not, this is still horrible music. And I was like, that's hilarious.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a great,
that's a
funny
nice comment right there.
diss comment.
Yeah.
So I enjoy the hater comments sometimes.
You can't, and you're never going to please anybody. And I think it's with any stuff that we're creating, it's like not everyone's going to like it. That's fine. It's so bringing up that topic in particular, which I think we've sort of talked about.
Oh yeah.
A topic lately that's been going on is calling out drummers for I don't even
like editing their videos.
But not in comment section. We're talking about drummers calling out other drummers.
Calling out other drummers. Yeah, and I think so. My take on it is it all just comes down to how you present it in the first place.
Yeah.
If you present it as oh, this is all one take and this is a totally genuine performance and there's no edits whatsoever, and then there are edits, that's sure, you're getting called out for that.
Yeah.
But I think what is okay in my opinion is just being open about what is the actual process of recording, of shooting videos. There's probably not, at least that I know, there's not many drummers that I know of who go into a session like this, or even on their own, or when they're recording a record, that literally just do straight one take of each song or performance, and that's it. And I'm sure you've worked with plenty of people that do.
Well, not as many. Well, it's funny you say that because a lot of people come in here nervous. And
sure.
I tell them, I'm like, wait a minute, actually, you should be more nervous live because you only get one shot at that song live in front of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And here, you've got the ability to do a few takes if you want. If you want to take it as a personal challenge and try and get it in one take, great.
Yeah.
If you don't, and you just want to do 2 or 3 takes, and we'll piece together part A of take 1 and part B of take 2, and there you go. I don't think there's many people out there that think everybody does things in one take only. Mm-hmm. That's a level of perfection that's really hard to reach.
It is, but I do think that if you have no experience with it whatsoever and you're just looking at it as a spectator, you might think that is how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
Especially when you have certain people that are presenting it that way. And don't get me wrong, there are people that do that, who present it that way and then pull it off, and it is completely legit. And that is an amazing sort of high level to strive for. But in reality, you may have an off day, or you may just like doing it another way. I like the fact that there is less pressure, knowing that I can come in here and we can do multiple takes. I can spot check things if I want to. We have multiple different video angles. We have the ability to even push a song to the next day if we want. We don't have to get it all perfect right away. You could even do it in sections if you really wanted to. But I don't see anything wrong with doing that as long as you aren't then representing it in a disingenuous manner.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
No, we don't grid anything. We don't do any of that. It's about as organic as it gets.
Yeah.
It's about as true to form as it gets in a recording studio if you were going to be on a session for an album.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, way more than that, here. Yeah. But you're not giving yourself enough credit because 2 out of the 3 that you did are going to be one take.
True. Yeah, and I'm not
right.
I'm not even necessarily referring to this session, but from a preferential standpoint.
Yeah, just how you like to do it.
Yeah, so
if you get it right on the one track, cool. But if you need to do 2 or 3, so what? It doesn't matter.
Right, and if we did this whole take, but there's this one shot or there's this one part where there's a mistake. Okay, pull in an edit from the second take and just replace that part, and that's fine. It hasn't happened a lot, but there was one video that we put up where I think I did 2 takes total of it, or maybe 3, and we did the edit, and I missed one spot where the video is doing one thing and the audio is doing another, and a couple people commented, and it's that's the kind of stuff that's good catch, you're right, but I'll also explain for people that don't know, it's hey, great catch. What happened was we recorded 2 different takes of the audio and 2 different takes of the video, and we just missed, comping this the right way. But when it comes to even recording drums for an album, there's so much, like I talk to my students about this a lot, because oftentimes they'll come to me and say things like, oh, I'm so nervous about recording. Like, how am I going to get through all these songs from start to finish? And, with the nerves. I'm like, well, you don't have to. You don't have to do the songs from start to finish in one take. And there's actually, from a production standpoint, from a quality control standpoint, there's benefits to not doing it that way.
Yeah.
If you do it in sections, multiple takes of each section, you can manage the tuning of the drums and make sure that everything stays in tune. If you hit a snare drum really hard, as we know from these sessions, it's like the snare can detune pretty quickly. So by doing things in shorter takes, multiple takes, you have options, you can try variations of things, and the quality control level is there. And then once you get through the whole song in sections like that, like for me personally, I love getting to sit down, it's usually with Nolly.
Yeah.
And we'll sit down and we'll listen to each take from each section, and then we comp together the best performances of each section to then make the best overall version of the song based on what I played. And then from there, I'll go learn that final product version of it to go play live. But I think it's good for people that don't know that is a possibility. It's really good to expose that, because it makes things easier, and two, I think it creates a better product in the long run. Yeah. At least it gives the opportunity for a product that you can scrutinize over in a positive way and find the best versions of each part.
Yeah, and it probably takes some of the stress of people trying to think that they have to be this, superhuman drummer. Right?
Yeah,
you're like, okay, yeah, I can. If you've never recorded before and your students like, I gotta be perfect, I gotta do this stuff. Like, not really. We're not all perfect. This is just the process.
Yeah.
Well, really, that's the irony to me, because live would be playing a song live would be that version of superhuman you're talking about. Obviously, you're not trying to document it by recording it, but you are trying to play it faithfully, if that's what you do. If you're not just improvising your songs each night, if you're trying to recreate the album every night, then you've got to nail it. You got one chance every night. A lot of guys don't get nervous about that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's kind of ironic that this is what they do get nervous about.
But yeah, and I think for the same reasons, it's like you don't need to get nervous about that, because it's pretty obvious to explain, well, I'm playing a live show. I don't have the luxury of going in and getting it right multiple times. And I think that is where the pressure comes in, where at least for me, it's like when I'm doing multiple takes in the studio, because I'm not feeling it, or I'm not nailing a part, that's when it's more pressure, because it's like, oh man, they're gonna think I don't know my stuff, or I'm really not prepared, or something like that, because I need to start the song over a couple times or do this section a couple times. Whereas live, it's like the band's not going to stop and play the song multiple times just to get it right. It's an understood thing. And I think even from an audience member standpoint, when I go see live bands, I kind of like when you see either you hear new improvisational style stuff, or you see mistakes, and rather than the band or the artist getting butthurt or bummed out about it, they laugh it off.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right. It's part of the show that's unique.
Yeah, we had Xavier Ware here, and he was dropping a stick in this video. I think you guys mentioned that you liked that we kept it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
in,
I thought it was
in
so
the
cool.
video.
Yes.
We only had one guy in the comment section say that we had done him a disservice by not correcting that, but I mean that's the real deal.
Yeah, it's cool. I love it. I think coming in here is really nerve-wracking though, because compared to stage, because on stage you're with your bandmates, your friends. I'm the drummer, so I'm like, no one's really paying attention to me other than other drummers. And there's a vocalist there. I look at the audience and they're all looking at the vocalist. So you can it's a little less pressure, but when you come in here, you've got multiple people that are hired to be here for the day. Then you've got all lights, and there's these really awesome cameras and all this equipment, and it's in a really nice studio. It's just not everyone's comfort zone.
It's really funny though, because I've clearly, this is not what I do for a living, but I've done enough recording and enough playing live. My experience is completely the opposite of yours. I love the studio. I love to record. If I could do nothing but that, being in a band, that's what I would do. Yeah. And I just don't have that X factor of being up on stage and,
jazz hands and all that.
Yeah.
And I used to, like, there was a time where I would get on stage and it was no big deal. I'd done it so much. And then there came to be a time where it was weird. It turned on me. It started to make me feel way too nervous.
Yeah.
But it put me in a studio and I was happy as a clam.
Yeah. Well, to specify, there's the studio and then there's making these drum videos. Because like for me personally, I've seen Meinl videos before I did one. So
That's a good point.
it's just there's so much going on in your head that
It's a prestigious thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, they flew me out here and I'm doing this video, and it's like they don't know that I'm actually like not good at drums, and
Right. Yeah.
See, imposter syndrome.
Right. Yeah, like, dude, you sure you want to have me come out here?
Yeah,
and do this?
yeah,
Like,
you're
not
just
like, yeah.
I really got to pull this off, man. And so
Yeah.
I get why it's really nerve-wracking to do these. Like I've had the pleasure of doing like a lot of them now. So I think if I was to do one, I'd just be like, yeah, and I know you guys so well, but yeah, the first couple times it's like, man, this is nerve-wracking.
Dude, we've shot a lot of videos.
Both of you guys.
It never gets easier.
Yeah, no, both of you guys are veterans.
Yeah, but I think it's because knowing how you carry yourself and how you like to operate in business, how Meinl operates in business, and I love it. I respect it so much that when you are part of this family, there is a certain, I think, expectation of you to take it seriously, and even when you and I talked about this session, and like we've talked about many of our sessions, like we talk about, okay, what are our expectations, what are our goals, what are we trying to achieve? I want to make sure that I'm doing my part as the artist to live up to my expectations. So there's a big investment put into it, from your end. Look, everything that's happening right now, there's time, like everybody's putting their time in. So yeah, it has the ability to be a pretty like daunting experience if you let it be. I think the fact that we have done it a lot takes
you're gonna get through it. But you're still like, through it. All right, look, let's just get through this, man. We're gonna do this
for sure. Yeah, but it's just, I think the point is, which hopefully you do feel good about, and I can imagine every artist that comes through and does this stuff with you takes it seriously. You have to. It is fun. Drumming is great. Drumming is so much fun. We get to play drums, like the keyword play. But it's like we gotta make sure that we take our job seriously, especially in scenarios like this.
Yeah, for sure. So we've said a few things that made me think about this, and this is maybe a contentious topic. Maybe we don't want to expose people, but we've talked about maybe being disingenuous when you record something. And then putting it out there on the internet. So there's been a little bit of that lately, where you've had drummers calling out other drummers.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? Are those cheap shots to get clicks, or is there some good to come out of it?
I can't speak to the people that are making the videos to critique those things. All I can say is that I don't know, like, we don't have enough information, in my opinion, because it might have really just been something where the drummers that are putting out these videos of themselves playing, they were doing exactly what we're talking about, where they're recording multiple takes, audio and video, and they just missed something. Maybe they really did play it in another take, but they just messed up the comp, and it was a total honest mistake, and they.
So now you got somebody calling them out for it in public, and that's what I'm asking about. Is it going to be helpful? I'm not saying it is or isn't. I just want to know what you guys think.
I think some good will come out of it, because people will be more just kind of educated on what goes into the music. But I mean, I think with those particular videos, they're drummers that are playing unbelievably fast, right? So it's kind of in its own league of the type of drumming, but it's kind of a result of making music that sounds inhuman and almost fake to start with, and they're trying to keep up with that as a human. So I think like on both the production aspect of making albums and the live aspect, it's like there's something that people need to be aware of, because like you said, like we don't really know how much the average person or average metal fan or drummer knows what goes into this kind of stuff. So I think it's ultimately good, to be honest. I think it's unfortunate if I don't think anybody, like whoever's getting called out or whatever, they're still phenomenal drummers. You know,
That's the
at the end of the day, they're phenomenal drummers. Whatever happened with their videos, I mean, big deal.
Right. Yeah.
But like, and I think most people feel that way. You know, I don't think there's very many people who are, you know, just found out that Santa Claus isn't real. You know what I mean? So
wait, what?
So I think it's good. I think it's good. And I think maybe people should consider starting to make their productions a little more human sounding. You know what I mean? And not making it so freaking perfect.
Yeah, or at the very least, again, just, you know, be forthcoming about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Either in the comments or, you know, even you could even go as far as to be like, okay, here's how I'm going to go record this thing, which could be interesting content in and of itself. Like, hey, how does a drummer actually go and record a playthrough? Like what are the steps that we take as drummers to go do this? Not just the playthrough itself, but like, okay, now what are we doing behind the scenes? What are, you know, how are we actually running the session? You know, there's a lot to it, and I agree with you. Like, whether there's these small moments in the playthroughs that are like, you know, not accurate, they're still playing at such an insane level with music that is super hard and nearly impossible to really even play.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you expect?
Exactly.
You know, now, one thing I will say, which has always sort of been like, I guess, a theme with Periphery Records as an example, is like, we've always talked about how like the album, like when you record the album, it really should be like as perfect of a representation in time of where we are as a band at that moment, but it also is indelible. Like it's going to be like as it is. So like, let's make sure on the record everything is as perfect as it can be for the part that you're playing, right? So let's make sure that it sounds as good as it possibly can. And, you know, that's why we may utilize, even beyond the reasons that I stated, the recording methods that we do of like making sure each section really is, you know, representative of that idea. And I think for an album, that is a good thing to keep in mind. But we've always talked about too, like when it comes to performing live, that's not a thing. We all like, you recognize that we're just human beings, and like we're gonna have good nights and bad nights, and it also can change and be fun. And you know, I'm really lucky to be in a band where I have kind of the freedom, for sure, to from night to night experiment with things and even do stuff sometimes just to make my band members laugh.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, like so just to have that freedom is great when it comes to the live performance side of it. But I would agree with you as well that like, I think even we as a band could lighten up a bit and be like, you know what, like, how about we do peel it back even a little bit more and say, hey, if it's not 100% pristine and perfect as an album, that's okay too.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
like,
I would like, I think, you know, you guys don't do stuff that's outside of what you would be capable of doing. You know what I mean? It's not like pushing it to a point of like, there's no way I could do that. You know, like you could conceivably play it. It's just cleaner on the album.
Sure.
You know, but yeah, I think me personally, I'm leaning towards, and it's just a matter of preference. You know, it really is. And I'm just like, me personally, I'm starting to lean more towards like, you know, I kind of want the drums to be a little looser on the album. Well, I kind of want there to be some flams. I want there to be some like, not like mistakes, but just more personality.
Well, I love, like I thought it was, we were talking about this yesterday real quick. You said the video that you just put out recently, you were just like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to put it out as is. I'm not going to worry about anything that like, you know, might have previously bothered me.
Exactly.
Here we go.
Just there it is.
Yeah.
And no one has said like, oh, this is sloppy. You know, it's just like, because we're talking about like, oh, I hit a rim instead of a tom. Or like, I was doing the double bass, 30-second notes, and I missed, you know, one kick, or this little section of 30-second notes like galloped a little more than I would have liked. It's like, okay, so what? Mm-hmm. It sounds awesome, you know. No, like I said, no one has said that it sounds sloppy because it's really not that much of a difference. Mm-hmm. And even if your tracks, even if we took one of the songs that we did, and just used the whole entire thing, I don't think anybody would notice because the mistakes or whatever, they're so subtle. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, what was it? There's like one where like there's a
you hit a rim instead of a tom, or like
Yeah.
oh, the feel was a little weird in like, 1 second. And so we used a different take. So it's stuff like that that we're talking about to begin with.
Yeah, well, but it ties into this idea of like our own perfectionism.
Yeah.
Because, and again, this isn't like something that you should change as the person that's putting on these great opportunities for drummers to come record. But I think part of that is like you yourself could be like, yeah, screw it.
Yeah, it's
when,
a matter
when
of
you're doing
taste.
it all yourself.
Yeah.
But like when you factor in all of the details and
Yeah,
everything involved,
yeah.
I think there's the question of, well, can I be? Is everybody in the room going to be okay with me making that decision about the performance? Or
because you don't know. Chris could be like, hey, we want this just to be professional as possible.
Right.
We don't want mistakes in here. But you guys put out the video of Xavier dropping the drumstick, so obviously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I know you're cool with it, but it's just it just goes back to this idea of like, I think we want to represent the brand well.
Yeah.
And the people
I hear
well.
what you're saying, 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, we kind of got away a little bit from your question, but I don't know. To Navene's point, like, I think it's good that stuff is being talked about, because at the very least it'll illuminate what really goes into the process. And I think that's good for anybody to understand, because it maybe will help people either decide that they're going to be more genuine about it, that they're going to be more careful about what they put out if they are going to be making edits like that, or they're just going to be like really open about it and explain the process to people so that nobody, everybody has the ability to see how it actually comes together. Yeah.
So while we were talking and random thoughts were coming to mind, I would love to know, who is the first drummer that made you fall in love with ghost notes, and who's the first drummer that made you fall in love with blast beats?
You want to go first, Matt? Okay. Fall in love with blast beats. For me, it was Kevin Talley on Destroy the Opposition, the Dying Fetus album. Like I had heard blast beats before that, and I thought they were pretty cool. But I was more so into like metal music. And then when I heard just the way he played more like had groove. And because I was more of like a groovy drummer always, like up until that point. Even though I was young, I was like 15 when I heard the album. But yeah, when I was like, okay, groove with the blasting and everything, like that's what I want to do. I want to have both. I want to be fast, and I want to be able to groove hard and lay into the drums.
How did you discover that album?
I randomly just bought it because I thought it looked cool. I was just in the record store and I was like, that looks cool. I'm gonna buy it. And it was on Relapse Records, so I had some other albums that were on Relapse Records, and yeah, it was like I said, it was how long ago? 25 years ago almost. So yeah, that was what did it for me.
How long was it until you said to yourself, I think I got the hang of this blast beat thing?
I still don't feel that way.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Well, because no matter where you're at, you're like, there's someone who's just like a billion times faster than you. Yeah. Your top speed is like their warm up.
When did you finally feel comfortable putting it down on record? Blast beating.
Oh, probably just like, I don't know, probably the day I learned it. Just like that one clicked for me really quickly. Just like, and it was funny because there wasn't like YouTube or any of that type of stuff, so I kind of I knew that I couldn't like go super fast with 1 foot, so I did like the split blast, like with the left, right, and then the snares in between, the Euro blast, I think they refer to it as, and like I didn't know if that was like cheating or if how you're supposed to do it, or because there was nothing about that type of stuff, and so like I just worked on that for a few days, and then yeah, I'd say like a week to a month later, I was like pretty comfortable with it, and doing them a lot. And then the band that I joined about a year after that, Animosity, we just wrote music with tons of blast beats in it. And like, I think that's the best way to get good at blast beats, is to play music that has blast beats in it.
For sure. That's when I got better at it, was being forced to play songs that had blast beats in
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or any type of drumming. Like, for me, I've actually personally played like more in a band than by myself. So like that's where I'm comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But you and Ghost Notes. Who made you fall in love with Ghost Notes?
I think it was Jojo Mayer, and it was his performance on the Screaming Headless Torsos record. I think it was called 1995 was the record name. And it was just the dynamics overall. Like, it was the first time that I had a teacher say, okay, when you listen to this record, don't just like pay attention to the drumming from a broad perspective. Like, let's really focus on like what's happening dynamically. How is Jojo playing the hi-hat? How is he playing the snare drum? How are those two things working interdependently? Where's the kick drum fall in this? Like, pay attention to the musicality of it. And then it was like, oh wow, like this whole other thing just got opened up in my mind of like, this is a different way to play. You know, this is something we can do. And then I just started thinking about, well, what kind of exercises, rudiments do you need to do to be able to play these kinds of like linear, very syncopated patterns between your hands and feet, right? And, you know, I just started with basic rudiments and like just tried to then see if by understanding these rudiments by themselves, if I could then go play parts from that particular record. Because without doing that, like I didn't really understand like how like to get the dynamic control to be able to play like a molar stroke, eighth notes on the hi-hat while playing in between the kick and like the kick drum hits and the backbeat louder hits of a snare drum dynamically and still playing these patterns that just all fit. And it was just very hard to do just by listening to it. So I had to develop these exercises to be able to have the control and coordination to do it. And then eventually it just became more of second nature and, you know, I just explored further. But
You said you had a teacher?
I did, but we didn't really cover that stuff. We were just kind of, in general, he was just, I don't even think we spent much time on any songs from that record, or he was just like, oh, I really like this record and here's this sick drummer, Jojo Mayer. When you listen to it, like pay attention to these other details. That was it. It wasn't like, all right, we're going to study this stuff. I took it upon myself to like you said, I fell in love with the idea and then I just like went down a rabbit hole with it. Yeah.
Did the way that, like, I know you already had your own style and everything when you joined Periphery, but did the way that Misha kind of programmed drums and the way he programs the ghost notes kind of influence how you did it, like after that?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, for sure. Absolutely did. And what I love about a lot of aspects of Misha's ability to program and sort of speak the language of drumming through that channel is like, dude, he'll come up with things that I never would have thought of.
Right.
You know, but that like I think are so cool.
Yeah.
And it's like then it's like, okay, awesome. Like you came up with this thing that I wouldn't have thought of that's awesome. And I get to play it and I get to learn this and then add it to my skill set. So whether it was ghost notes or just certain groove accents or the way that he might approach a fill in a bar of a song that I wouldn't have thought to play in that way. Yeah, like it was a symbiotic relationship in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he probably programs kind of like what he thinks you would play.
Right.
And then it's like, kind of a back and forth thing.
Well, I take this as a gigantic compliment from Misha, but like, so when I first met him, I think he either just started working on the Animals record, the first one, or was about to. And then when we talked after the fact, you know, months later, he was like, dude, just so you know, like when I wrote that Animals record, like I just kept picturing you as the drummer. And again, when he saw me play for that first time, I was playing in a band where I was doing a lot of like fusion-y style grooves and like it was a lot of pocket playing, but there was a ton of ghost notes and a ton of accents and like kind of the style that that I've come to really enjoy to play. But like I was doing it then, so he was like, yeah, I took that and I applied it to metal.
Yeah.
You know, so I took that as a big compliment,
really cool.
which was great. But he then, like, especially when I joined the band, started programming drum parts with me in mind. And we like the same styles of drumming for the most part, except when he like tries to program stuff that is completely out of the realm of possibility for me. You know, it's great to have such a great mind for drumming in the band that isn't just me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very
really
lucky
cool.
to have that.
Very cool.
That's interesting. So you write all the music for Entheos, the guitar parts and the drumming. So who challenges you in Entheos?
I mean, I think it's usually like Cheney, the vocalist. She does have a lot of say in how the music is written. Like she'll be like, oh, that you need to change this part. Like she doesn't actually write any of it, but she does kind of put her spin on how the parts should go or the song arrangements, that type of thing. But I mean, usually, and now we're working with Mark Lewis, like the producer. We did our last EP with him, and we're gonna do our upcoming album with him. So it's really the three of us that will kind of go back and forth on everything. But I mean, usually it's kind of the opposite problem. It's like I'm making stuff that's way too busy, and they're like, "All right, dude, you need to kind of calm the jazz hands down a little bit," And I don't blame them. It's
Yeah.
you got to make room for everything else.
I'm also curious, how did you guys first, going way back, what made you guys first notice Meinl? Because this was back at a time where our presence in the U.S. was only a few years old. Mm-hmm. And boy, we were fighting uphill all the way for a while.
Yeah, for me it was because you started working with all the underground metal drummers, and that was my community. So I just noticed, John Charn playing them. I don't really know who else at the time, but I remember seeing the cymbals quite a bit. And in specific, John Rice, Charn we call him, but he was, I just thought his cymbals sounded great. And I did a tour with him. And
it's funny how that works. If you talking about how everything connects earlier, if I think about why we're sitting here now, so I was up in Pittsburgh at a drum shop that I don't think exists any longer, and I was helping a sales rep set up some of our first slot wall displays in drum shops. And this kid walks up to me, and he introduces himself and says, "Hey, I'm John Rice. I play metal, and just wanted to say hey, and I like what you guys do, and maybe I'll see you around someday." And thought, what a nice guy. And that was it. I went back to building the slat wall.
That's cool.
And then randomly, a little bit later on, I get this email from John Rice. "Hey, remember me? I met you in Pittsburgh. I'm in this band now called Job for a Cowboy, and we're going to be playing in Nashville at the Muse. And do you want to come out?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll come out." So I got there, and the line went all the way around the building down the block in this really crappy part of town. And then as I parked my car and I was walking up, I saw some people walking away, and a few kids were saying, "God, they're sold out. Now we got to drive all the way back to Virginia." And I thought, holy crap, that's awesome. And
wow.
Yeah. And so obviously I loved his drumming, and he's just the best dude. And so that led to you. So
And I think, did Shannon Lucas play Meinl too? The Black Dahlia guy? No, he didn't? Okay. Who else could you think of from that time that was like underground kind of metal?
Well, in no particular order. Let's see, Mike Justin from Unearth. He also played in the Red Chord.
Yeah. So we did a tour with them when he was in the band. So that was another one.
Would have been guys like Corey Pierce from God Forbid, John Berklin with Devil Driver, Chris Adler. Lamb of God was a little bit bigger at that time. At the time, Bittner was with us with Shadows Fall. And now I'm totally spacing on our artists.
Yes, that's a lot. That's a lot. I'm like not that great of a memory for that type of stuff. But yeah, that's definitely how I found out about it. All those bands were in my, universe.
Yeah. What about you?
Warped Tour.
Going to see Warped Tour? Mm-hmm. Like being a spectator?
Yeah.
And which band?
Under Oath.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, for sure. It was seeing one. It was like this indelible mark of watching Aaron Gillespie play these gigantic cymbals.
Big.
His whole kit was nothing but gigantic cymbals.
Yeah.
And just this big M on them. And there were, at the time, there really weren't a lot of drummers doing what Aaron was doing as far as his style. And that was around the time that Only Chasing Safety and it was kind of that era of the band, and they were just blowing up, and his drumming was everywhere, and it was just so influential. But I remember seeing those cymbals and being like, wow, these things are huge. They're obviously durable, and they made the music sound even better. And yeah, pretty much from then on, it was like on my radar, big time. And then when I joined Periphery, because prior to that, like there was no avenue for me to ever like reach out to you and be like, hey, I'm just some like random drummer from Baltimore. Like, can I have some cymbals, please?
That shouldn't have stopped you. It doesn't stop anybody
Definitely
else.
not. But I think I was realistic about it. I was very realistic about.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding about it not stopping anybody else.
Gotcha.
That happens.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure
Well,
it
I didn't think that there was any real vehicle to help with that. But when I did that first Thrash and Burn tour, and again, it was Birkeland, Sam Applebaum, I think Charn was on that tour. Pretty sure Joffrey Cowboy was on that tour, if I recall. A bunch of other Meinl artists were on that run. Trying to think who else. Was Mike from Through the Eyes of the Dead? Okay, he wasn't a Meinl guy. Okay.
In my mind, it's just everyone from that era.
Yeah, it's just like it's hard for me to
Meinls.
even
That's
think.
like,
Yeah, it's hard for me to even like think about non-Meinl symbols like, in that time period. But there were just so many dudes on that tour that were playing them, and they just sounded great. And then they put me in touch with you, and it was like, oh my god, this is not real.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had a lot of those dudes back then.
That's right. I remember you telling me, like when we did in 2010, Animals as Leaders played Summer Slaughter, and I think you might have came to a show in Atlanta because there was a bunch of drummers.
Yeah.
And you told me, like, yeah, since we've endorsed all of you like metal underground drummers, it's like really helped the company. And I just always thought that was super cool because at the time it wasn't like metal was not as cool as it is now or widely accepted, right? So I just thought it was really cool that you guys had so many metal drummers, and then you told me that it actually helped grow the company. So I've always thought that was cool.
It's funny what you say about metal. It's like a lot of times people say metal's dead, metal's alive, metal's doing great, metal's dead again, it's gone underground. It's the coolest thing about metal is it never really dies.
Yeah.
It just fluctuates with what it does.
Changes a little bit here and there. Like,
yeah, and at that time it was still big enough to have Ozfest and Sounds of the Underground or the Mayhem Festival. You had metal bands. Like I feel like Warped Tour knew they had to have their token few metal bands each year.
Definitely.
So it's always been kind of big. But I just thought back to what I liked as a kid. I listened to tons of metal, and I would just sit there and have the album in front of me, and I'd read the liner notes over and over and over. And I'm reading the liner notes to Master of Puppets, and I'm like, who is Joe Hibbs? Who is this guy? And it's like, he's his Tama artist relations rap.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah. And
well, I feel like the metal people care more about that type of stuff.
Oh, they devour that stuff. Yeah. So I just kind of organically, it was not rocket science. It wasn't some grand master plan. I just sort of went with what my gut told me.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool. It's great. Yeah. And I mean, even then, like I say that because I remember the first year I went to NAMM was like 2010, I think. And then I went for almost 10 years every year. And I just recall one year going later and just looking around and being like, this whole thing is about metal. Like you look at every single booth and it's metal artists. And I remember thinking the first time I went to NAMM, it wasn't really as much. So I think that's great that that's gone so much bigger. And I think it's a big part because of you guys, because you guys always talked about gear and kind of made the production side of metal like way more popular.
Yeah, you guys have done a really good job at sort of dovetailing just fans of the music, but also fans of like people who are super obsessive about gear and love to watch gear videos and learn about guitar pedals and pickups and cymbals. And you guys have done a really good job at just kind of approaching it holistically.
Well, right, but I was going to say, because that's all we all do anyway. Like, like when you weren't recording, I'm like looking at you on Reverb and like looking at different pieces of recording hardware and like gear. It's like totally by yourself, just that's what you're interested in.
Fun.
Yeah, and that's what, dude, I mean, the guys in my band, including myself, we just have so much gear. Like that's what we're into. That's what our fans are into. That's what our fans want to talk about with us.
Are you ever going to have a Periphery reverb blocker for sale? There better not be any Meinl gear in there.
Dude, no, we did have a reverb like store for a very short period of time.
Really?
But it wasn't actual hard, like it wasn't like it was links. It was just links to all of our sponsors' websites. So
Gotcha.
I think for Meinl we linked out to Sweetwater.
Okay.
I want to say, and then same for all the other gear. Like for the drumsticks, it went to the D'Addario site and so forth. But yeah, I mean we did that very briefly, but yeah, I mean it just makes sense from a lot of different angles. I think we genuinely really like gear. We obsess about the stuff that we do have, and we're always thinking about like what improvements can we make for ourselves, what's going to help us do our jobs better. And then in that same train of thought, it's like, well, we always talk about it, like there's certain things I say, I'll call you and I'll say, hey man, like I have this idea for a cymbal, like, and it's something that I'm thinking of by myself versus like, hey, Chris, like Alex, our sound guy, like is on my butt about like my cymbal choice just being too much. Like, can we work together to develop a cymbal that's going to accommodate his requests and mine at the same time?
Tell me the truth. Was I a little grumpy the first time you asked me that?
I don't remember.
I feel like I was grumpy.
You might have been.
Sorry if I was grumpy.
You might have, yeah. I mean, it could have been just because of the fact that it wasn't coming directly from me.
Yeah.
Well, I know Alex, and Alex is really good at his job. Yeah. And so I take that seriously. And there's been enough sound guys out there where I thought to myself, are they just being lazy? Are they really not working to try and like get the balance right here? Is it just their sort of like just de facto move to just immediately say, call your AR guy, get whatever I tell him to get?
Yeah. No, I mean, it was probably me just not like being willing to comply with his request. I mean, dude, he at a point wanted me to put like a plexiglass, like, like the
church panels?
Yeah, the panels in front of me
Yeah.
just to stop the mic bleed. But I was pretty adamant, like, no, I think we can do this with the right gear. I think we can figure this out. So I brought my, these requests to you, and we were able to develop some really cool cymbals through that process. But everybody in the band is thinking about things that way for themselves. And then if it makes sense beyond that to also, have something that's good enough to market to people because it fills a hole, or a gap in the market or whatever, then of course it works out. And then the fact that our audiences are very similar to us, it's like they want to buy gear. They may not want to buy as much merch.
Yeah.
But like they're making music of their own. They're producing music for other people. And I think for me personally, I am going to take recommendations from my peers and people I look up to as far as what gear to use. And that's something that I will definitely choose to like I'll purchase something, or I'll look for something because somebody I respect told me to. And it's the same thing with us. I think have built a lot of trust with our audience in certain aspects. And with that being said, there's a responsibility to create gear that is going to make sure that responsibility remains in place, that trust remains in place.
Sure.
I guess. So, yeah, I mean.
I think you guys definitely, it goes without saying, you do that for sure. Everything you guys make is.
It's funny to watch the evolution of it too, because like now, like so with Misha as an example, guitars, pedals, and now, man, it is just like all synth.
Yeah.
It's all modular.
He's in a synth hole. That's what I call it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have no idea. Like this is not like me, hinting at something by any means. I really have no clue. But like I wouldn't be surprised if through his process of going down into the synth hole, that he ends up realizing that, oh wait, there's this thing that's missing that we could create that would make my life better making this music, and also, hey, here's a marketable product. Like I would not be surprised if that happens, just because the level of obsession that occurs very organically with all of us, you as well, is just, it's real. I mean, we get obsessed with the gear, and then it's like we try to figure out like, what can we make? How can we make it even better? Are
you guys natural collectors? Like when you were kids, was it like, I got to collect all of this one action figure, or?
Actually, yeah, I was like that.
Yeah.
What
about you?
With action figures and stuff like that, definitely toys. I was like really serious about it.
And you had like your carrying cases, you had,
I'm not that like OCD with my stuff in general. Like I'm
Yeah.
just more like, oh, it's mine. It's in my house. Okay, cool.
And I've got everything I wanted. Like you had the whole.
I'm not the clean guy with the cake. Well, that's just not me. You know, like that's,
What about you? Were you a collector as a kid?
Yeah, more as a kid. I mean, definitely action figures, and trying to think back. I mean, then when it was drumming, it was like, you know, getting drumsticks from all the artists that I wanted to.
Well, that's what I mean. I think it's like
Yeah.
that obsessiveness.
Oh, totally.
You probably had it when you were a kid too.
Yeah, dude. Like, I haven't thought about this in forever, but it's like, I've been playing Pro Mark for a long time, and even as a kid, I played Pro Mark. I would collect, like, you know, I had like the Abe Cunningham sticks, I had Mike Portnoy sticks, a slew of other artists, and like I needed to have them, and I would try not to play with them, you know, just to preserve them, but I'd end up playing with them, and breaking them, and getting new ones. But like, yeah, I had to have them all. You know, I needed the collections for sure. Yeah, it was pretty obsessive.
That's awesome. Well, guys, it's been 2 days with you two guys in the same room. It's been fantastic.
so much fun, man.
Yeah, had a great time. Yeah, I'm really glad that we made it work.
I'm glad too. Thanks for coming out.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for all your help too.
Yeah, of course.
great.
This is the type of work that makes life worth it.
Thanks for listening to Meinl Radio. If you liked what you've heard, please remember to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Give us a rating as well on Apple Podcasts, if that's what you're listening to this on. Also, go to meinlsymbols.com, or go to meinlstickandbrush.com, or go to both of them, and sign up for our email newsletters to keep up with everything that's going on in our Meinl world. Thanks. Take care.